It's the course on emptiness. Cheers.
Actually, what does this remind you of?
You didn't. That reminds me, when we were editing their book, do you remember? We spent a month editing the book.
It was,
and every morning, I do
remember.
Every morning at 9 o'clock, we would meet together and stoke up on coffee.
I feel somewhat bad about that because you were such a pure monk. You still are, of course. But you were so pure and you weren't a coffee drinker. And I basically remember corrupting you because we had to drink very strong coffee because we were under strict instructions to discuss the book every day. And we needed coffee because it was deep. This is Ocean of Nectar. My copy of Ocean of Nectar is like, this is 1994 or so. This is a well-thumbed copy of Ocean of Nectar.
Yes.
And you're right. We had to discuss it every morning under Guru's instructions. And we needed coffee. We needed coffee.
Yeah. It helped.
And it was probably the best. It was about 4 weeks in total. Remember, Geshe-la said, he asked me to finish editing the book. And he asked me to come to Manjushu, where you were living. And he asked me to do a retreat on Ocean of Nectar and to finish editing the book. And then I was having questions and stuff. So he said, well, why don't you meet once a day with, again, Samten, and you can both discuss all the questions on Ocean of Nectar that are coming up and discuss them to your satisfaction and then put them, and edit the book that way. And so basically that was our morning ritual. And it was indeed the happiest month of my life, really. I mean, not the happiest, but certainly one of the happiest. To spending that month getting completely into emptiness. And it was one of the happiest months of your life, if I recall.
Yeah, I look back at that time as literally being, there's several events in my spiritual life that I look back and think this was one of the special ones. And that was it. It was really amazing.
Do you remember by the end of the month, we couldn't talk to anyone else except for each other because we had such precision. Everything we said was, do you remember this? It was like so precise. Everything we said was like deeply philosophical and precise. We couldn't
talk to anybody who didn't use the same language. We were nerds or geeks. Geeks are cool. Geeks are cool.
For a little bit we were. So yeah, so how amazing that we actually are able to do a course on this together. I mean, how amazing. Thank you. I really appreciate you having this idea and inviting me. I really do, because it's very, very meaningful to me to be able to share a retreat with you like this.
It's lovely, and likewise, when I remember when literally that it was that book, and it was working on that book together, and that really personally deepened my understanding of emptiness so much that I just used to sit down in meditation and just look at the past, look at the bad memories I had, and just feel them falling away as the sense of self just fell away. Beautiful. It was beautiful. Isn't it?
The emptiness of the self it's beautiful. Yeah, it's freedom, isn't it? We were trying to, on this course, I know we've discussed it a little bit already, and both of us want it to be about freedom, don't we? And change, real change, based on really a dismantling of that grasping, that self, because we've been doing it since beginningless time, and it's got us nowhere. It's got us nowhere, and yet through the Chandrakirti's reasoning, we are able to identify it and dismantle it. And even I think what the experience that we're sharing about, doing that month on it, it felt like much longer than a month, which is why you said months. It was a month, but it felt like it was so deep, wasn't it? And within a short period of time, what's interesting about that is that within such a short period of time, both our understandings of emptiness and our feeling of freedom and joy really increased hugely, exponentially, even though it was really only a month we spent doing that. So I think, we have almost a week on this retreat, and that's a long time if we can really drill down in that week.
That's it. That's the power, especially of the sevenfold reasoning, which is famous. It's iconic in the Buddhist world. It just clarifies exponentially our understanding of emptiness of self.
Yes.
And that's what it did for me. And just walking around, like maybe there was a point that I wasn't so clear about, walking around the grounds, keeping that question in my heart. And I just knew, I just had to walk around with the question, and then suddenly the answer would come. Like the blessings of Buddha would come into my heart, and then suddenly the answer would be there.
Yes.
And it was beautiful.
Very beautiful. And the sevenfold reasoning, like you say, it is iconic, it's famous. One reason you were talking about earlier is because Chandrakirti takes the kind of concrete example of a cart, we could say a modern day car or whatever, and really uses that as the basis for this sevenfold analogy that is quite easy to kind of get an understanding of. It gives you something concrete, I suppose, to understand something very deep and very unconcrete.
It's almost like very intuitive, like when you take a kind of concrete metaphor like a cart, and that symbolizes us. Yeah. And in some ways it's harder to realize emptiness if we just think about us. But with something like relatively simple like a cart, it's much easier to realize how these 7 reasonings apply to a cart.
Right.
And then realizing that it's so simple to just apply it to ourselves.
Yes. Provided we've done that initial step, which both of us want to spend time on, which is actually identifying the self that we normally see, the inherent existent self. So we can, Geshe-la's talked so much even of late of correctly and incorrectly identifying ourselves. And I feel that on this course, you and I are going to be able to really, really look quite thoroughly at what is the self that we normally grasp at. What is that self that we normally see? How are we incorrectly identifying it? And how can we correctly identify it? Because if we can do that, half the battle is over, isn't it? As soon as we know how we are grasping at ourselves, we are able to let go of that, to stop identifying so strongly with one painful and limited and neurotic version of ourselves after another, because that's what we're doing at the moment. Keep incorrectly identifying ourselves, even in this life. In previous lives, we've been identifying with whales and jellyfish and you know what I mean? It's like been going on for so long, this false identification of the self. So this is huge. This is a huge part of the course, isn't it? Just identifying who we are and who we are not.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a sort of weird satisfaction in actually beginning to realize this is what I'm grasping at. This is what it's almost like grasping the sense of self, or having grasping a sense of self that's like the linchpin of our misery and our pain and our problems. All our pain is centered around this sense of self, and beginning to gain some clarity into what I'm actually grasping at.
Yes.
That's such a liberating experience. Yes,
it's huge. It's huge. It's the game changer. in our lives, but just in all our spiritual practices. It's a game changer for all our other meditations as well. Complete game changer to see how we're grasping at the self and then be able to let go of that. It's like, it changes everything. So being able to spend like a whole week really looking at that, just really focusing on the emptiness of the self, I don't know, I just really hope a lot of people can come along and we can all do this together, because I just think it's such an amazing opportunity. It really is. It really is.
I mean, the nice thing about it is all you need to do this course is relatively simple. We don't need a lot. We just need a cup.
Thank you.
And you're perfectly prepared.
Coffee is allowed on this retreat.
Yes.
Coffee may even be encouraged. I'm not sure.
See you there, and cheers.
See you there, everyone. Can't wait. See you again, Samten.
Yeah. See you there.